There's a few places that I want to focus on. One of them is, well, it's the title image for this program is right here. That's the situation right now. There is a famine that's happening in Gaza, and it's an engineered famine, and that's the problem. This has been engineered intentionally, purposefully by the Israelis, and unfortunately, I have to say, by the U.S. government, by the Trump administration, more specifically. And this is unexcusable. It's horrific in the extreme, and I don't really know what to say at this point. So that's where things are at right now, and we'll bring up on screen as well. I want to bring this up on screen because I think it's important. This is more or less where we're at in terms of the narrative and the narrative management. Let me bring this up. This explains a lot for some of you who might still be confused as to how this came about. But there it is. This was something I pulled off of one of the Instagram accounts. I forgot which Palestinian group it is. We'll read it through for you as well. I'll enlarge that too. So we've got a good frame in the screen. And this is what it says. And again, I think this is important to note because this is the whole story in a nutshell. If you're wondering why everyone is suddenly advocating for Gaza, yeah, it's been almost 2 years, just so you know, 21 months to be precise. If you're wondering why everyone's suddenly advocating for Gaza, including politicians who stayed silent as their own bombs fell, U.S., British, munitions specifically, it's because calling it a famine now is a lot safer than calling it a genocide before. Famine sounds like misfortune. Genocide, however, sounds like guilt. Famine lets them send aid without admitting harm. Oh, look at this terrible situation that's unfolded in Gaza. I mean, how did it possibly come to this? I'm feigning concern like Donald Trump does. It's terrible what's happening there, says Donald Trump. Yeah, no kidding. And you've had a hand in that. They continue here on this post. Grieve publicly without naming the perpetrators. And that's safe. You don't have to say the word Israel. You don't have to say Netanyahu. You don't have to say genocide. You don't have to get tied up in that controversial word. Appear human without being held accountable. Genocide demands the truth. It forces us to name the violence. It forces us to name who made it possible. And once you do that, you can't keep defending it. You can't keep pretending you didn't know. Famine preserves power. Genocide threatens it. And I'm saying that in the narrative sense. Those of you who watch this program, who listen to me, read 21st Century Wire and so forth, you know exactly what we're talking about here. Anyway, I posted that on my X account. I think it's kind of important. So we put it up there. But that's literally where things are at right now, folks. Now, we've got a lot to say about a lot of things. I went to a press conference on Monday. This was for the Gaza Global Flotilla. This was in London at Palestine House. Incredible venue. If you're ever in London, you have a chance to visit this place. It's really beautiful. And it's in Holborn, too. It's right on the border of the city of London. Very strange location, and it's like you're stepping into some sort of Damascene Arab environment in the middle of London. It's so strange. But it's absolutely beautiful and enchanting, and it's the people that run it are wonderful people. But these were some of the people involved with the Global Flotilla, direct action. There's Tiago from Brazil, he was on the Madeleine, which was apprehended by the IDF a month and a bit ago. We covered that, of course. And the Handela, looks like all the crew have been released and are home. Obviously, the boat and the aid get confiscated. The aid probably went to a pound shop in Tel Aviv or something. I'm sure it didn't make it to the Palestinians. That's the last thing the Israelis would like. But we had a chance to talk to Director of Human Rights Watch. That was very enlightening. I posted some of that interview on the UK Column News on Friday. And MEP from Dublin as well, Sinn Féin, talking about Ireland sanctions. Lynn Boylan, she was there. And a number of other committed activists from all around the world. So there are more boats coming, folks. According to this meeting that was held, dozens potentially of boats. So they're organizing. So the Israelis are going to be busy. So that's happening. And they had some of this on sale at Palestine House. I couldn't resist. I don't drink pop, soda pop. Don't drink it anymore. But I did crack one of these open, and I did enjoy it. And it tasted pretty good. Gaza Cola. So it was pretty nice. So, yeah, they had quite a lot of that on ice up there. I grabbed a can. I didn't do a taste test. I won't drink Coca-Cola, full stop. So that's not happening. But Gaza Cola, you can buy this. If you're in the UK, you can buy it online. If you've got a store or a shop or you do events, you can buy this in bulk. Just go to Gaza Cola. They'll probably negotiate a bulk price with you if you want to deal with them direct. It's a nice product. Obviously, beautiful can. I mean, have a look at that. I mean, it's gorgeous. So anyway, I'm going to bring on a video shortly, but this is the Sunday screening, the BB Files. That's up on our website right now, 21stcenturywire.com, the BB Files. That's our Sunday screening. And that's this week's pick, curated by the editorial team at 21st Century Wire. And there's a number of different people who are selecting films each week. We sort of take turns and rotate. We've got a new person on this this particular task of looking for interesting and engaging films. This is definitely one of those. This is like another view of Netanyahu, another look of Netanyahu. So that's up at 21wire.com. So I have to ask this question, on what planet is this acceptable? On what planet is this even allowable? I really can't believe we're even having this conversation. And a brave whistleblower stepped forward, Anthony Aguilar. He's American. We've got a video we'll share with you. He's American, and the smear campaign, I knew he was going to end up on Tucker Carlson within a couple of days, and of course he did. The smear campaign to discredit this guy, former Green Beret, U.S. serviceman, served his country 20 years in the military, and Green Beret, obviously somewhat, I would say, elite detachment. So he's out, and he's into the contracting world, and he was contracted by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This is that sort of fake humanitarian outfit, this fraudulent company running out of Switzerland under investigation. Basically, one interview, which we played on the midweek, or I think also on Friday, he said the client was the IDF. So this thing was cooked up by the Israelis. They use U.S. contractors to make it look legitimate. It's full of CIA, USAID, and Mossad operatives providing humanitarian aid. What a scam. So he's doing the rounds on various podcasts, and what he's saying is damning. This is why the ADL and some of these other, I don't know if it was the ADL, but I think there's various Israeli accounts online that are making up stories about his criminal record, total fabrications. I retweeted some of that on my X account. There's so many different important things that he is revealing in these various interviews he's done. I think he's done about half a dozen in the last couple of days. And I pulled one podcast again. I retweeted this on X on my account. It's a smaller podcast, but he's doing the rounds. He looks authentic, looks legit, looks sincere. And here's what he had to say. We'll bring this up on screen. We'll bring that up on screen momentarily. We're just going to see if we can get a good audio feed for that. We'll work on that in a moment. So he's going basically into the details about what his role was and what he expected versus what actually happened in the end. And the discrepancy between these things are really incredible. So I presume he was a true believer when he took the assignment. That's just my guess, that he absolutely was on board with Israel and everything else. That's just my guess. So I'm thinking that's what the case is, but we'll see if we can hear this or not. Hold on. We'll come back to that clip. We've got some issues there. We'll have to pull that down. Nonetheless, we'll bring this back up on stage. And what he's describing here are they're luring people to these 4 feeding, what they call feeding sites. Okay, it's disgusting. They're luring people to these 4 feeding sites, and as they draw them away, they have to walk 10 kilometers to get a box of scraps, and then they won't be able to get back home. So they route them into concentration camps, which have been set up. So the overall project here, as you can see, the overall engineering of this is pretty reprehensible, ladies and gentlemen. But the overall project here is the ethnic cleansing of the native Palestinian population in Gaza. So using these, what they're doing now is training, conditioning people, cutting off food, cutting off supplies, starving them, then luring them into rat runs, okay? And then routing them after they've collected the food if they didn't get shot or tear gassed or stun grenaded. And they sort of herd them into some kind of a path to some sort of tent city, which has been set up where they could very likely be bombed by the Israelis. So, I mean, they're still killing people on an industrial scale. That's still happening. And I can't believe we're actually watching this. I mean, the sheer devastation, the amount of buildings that they've crushed, hundreds of thousands of homes been destroyed. 2/3 of the population of 2.5 million are displaced. Roughly 400,000 are dead or missing. 400,000. Okay? 400,000 dead or missing. And meanwhile, they're still pumping this out throughout the region. The Abraham Alliance, so trying to build a U.S. and Israeli NATO for the region and bring all these. Look, they've even got the terrorist Jolani in their lower left-hand corner with the beard. So they're trying to create this idea they're going to put together an Israeli-led NATO, or Israel-U.S.-led NATO in here. This, ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at, the Abraham Accords becomes the Abraham Alliance. And the idea behind this is we're going to provide security for everybody, but we're going to throw the Palestinians under the bus. So be plenty of money, plenty of investment. Saudis developing the NEOM project, this futuristic city, which they want to link up with Israel. But then Israel becomes the logistical energy and technology hub. And ultimately, the technology, big data, energy gatekeepers of the region. In other words, controlling U.S.-Israeli control of the new Middle East. That's what this is. Okay. And the conditions of membership are, do not say anything about the Palestinians. And by the way, wink, wink, nod, nod, we're in the process of getting rid of them. That's where things are at. You know, we don't make up the story. That's just the way it is. And no pushback from pretty much anybody other than just some disparate activists and people with a conscience internationally, but nothing of note politically. What's Trump busy doing? Starting nuclear war. That's kind of like what Trump's been busy doing. Pretty incredible, if you ask me. He made a threat recently. We'll see if we can bring this up on screen or not. 1 second. But Trump made a threat recently. Let me see if we can find this video. He basically said we're preparing for the war. And it's a little bit unhinged. Obviously, it's not the sort of thing we want to see. But he's reacting to tweets by Medvedev. Okay. If anybody knows Dmitry Medvedev by now, he is probably on a galactic level of troll. So think superpower trolling. That's what Medvedev does. And obviously, he is quite hardcore, but at the end of the day, he's not president. He is, I believe, the vice or deputy chair of the Russian National Security Council, thereabouts. He's not going to be president. It doesn't appear that way anyway. Not if he is, he hasn't fully rehabilitated yet. He was president briefly, if you remember, during Obama's end of Obama's first term, beginning of his second term. So Medvedev was there. Let's have a look at what Trump is saying here. I'm going to bring this up for you guys and listen closely, because this is quite something. This is the President of the United States, mind you. The President of the United States, completely unhinged. And we'll add this onto the screen right now. There he is. And never lost for words. I'm saying invoke the 25th. So here's Trump. Now, the problem with MAGA defenders on this, okay, and you guys know I gave Trump, we all gave Trump a chance because we believed what he said. So it's like, okay, yeah, world peace, no nuclear war. Let's give that a shot. Let's end the war in Ukraine. Yeah, we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. It hasn't ended that way. It's been a bit of a disaster. So here he is. U.S. presidents are supposed to be de-escalating, not escalating, especially with other nuclear powers. So here is Donald J. Trump, the 47th president of the United States. Here's what he's saying at the moment.
Medvedev say to you that made you really mad?
Well, you just have to read what he said. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.
Medvedev say to you that made...
So you have to put this in perspective. MAGA defenders are saying, well, no, the Russians are threatening the U.S., so Trump is just threatening them back. No. The U.S. is killing Russians. The U.S. is providing the weapons and the SRI to kill Russians. It's just that they're getting Ukraine to do it, to pull the trigger. But effectively, these are U.S. operations. The United States is killing Russians. Russians are not killing Americans. So America is determined to use Ukraine as a cudgel. Even when Trump promised he would end this proxy war, NATO's proxy war against Russia and Ukraine, he would end it in 24 hours. Great campaign line. Obviously, it got him a lot of votes. He gets in office and does the opposite. Okay, fair enough. That means you're fair game for criticism. Sorry, MAGA. That's just the way it goes. So there's a lot of cope going on this. And Trump's completely unhinged. We'll see if we can find this this ridiculous tweet. I think here it is. Yeah, here we go. George Samueli commented on this. We'll bring that back. So take a look at this. So Trump says, I've just been informed that 20,000 Russian soldiers died this month in the ridiculous war in Ukraine. So he's saying ridiculous war. It's not my war, it's Biden's war. Da, 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 da. So he's saying, Trump here, that 20,000 Russian soldiers died. Really? Let's take a closer look at that statement. Yeah, 20,000 Russian soldiers died this month in Ukraine. And then he goes down to say Ukraine have lost approximately 8,000 soldiers since January 1st, 2025. Where is he getting this information? Because this is not what we're hearing. So that's like a 14-to-1 kill ratio. So 14 Russian soldiers are dying for every one Ukrainian soldier. I have a hard time believing that this is actually true. In fact, I don't believe it's true. This is absolute balderdash. So who's telling Trump all this stuff? So I don't get it. Is Blinken and Sullivan, are they back in the White House again? Are they briefing the president? Where are they getting these numbers from? The Atlantic Council? I mean, somebody help the president. Donald Trump's in trouble. He's struggling. Don't know what to say. This is so just make up the stuff. Just make it up and run with it. George Samueli saying, where's this intelligence coming from? The Mark Levine show? Good question. So it's framing it as, we just want to break up this neighborhood fight between these Ukrainians and the Russians. We're not involved. We're an innocent party. We're the United States of America. Don't blame us. Don't blame me, says Trump. I didn't start this war. It's Biden's war. It's Biden's war. It never would have happened if I was president. In that same old line, how tired that one is. It's lost. It's kind of lost its novelty at this point. So there's Trump. So, instead of jousting about who's got the most nuclear readiness, why not do something civilized and just basically call the dogs off and accept reality? And that reality is Ukraine is not going to recover the territory that it's lost. As we've said from day one of this conflict, and covering it for 3.5 years, the longer it goes on, the more territory Ukraine's going to lose, the more men they're going to lose, and the bigger disaster it's going to be for the future of that country. Russia will do what it's going to do, full stop. It doesn't matter what the U.S. says. Doesn't matter what Germany says, what Britain says, what Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, says. It doesn't matter. Russia will execute its national security objectives because they are being threatened existentially by the West, who's using Ukraine as a cudgel. If America was in that exact position and their existential national security is being threatened, let's say China was working with Mexico, where they managed to get Texas to secede and the Chinese or the Russians were arming the Texans against Washington. That's an existential threat. Same exact situation in Ukraine. It's no different. The U.S. would probably deal with that problem with extreme prejudice in a very short space of time. And it wouldn't care really about civilian casualties. Not in the meticulous way Russia's attempting to avoid them, because it knows that if it has to govern over these territories in the future, it can't afford to inflict any civilian casualties. Hence, the number of civilian casualties in this conventional war since February 24th, 2022, is record low. It's the lowest for a conventional conflict of this scale We're talking about the amount of arms that have been dropped, the type of countries that are involved in arming Ukraine, the volume of munitions, and so forth. And the number of civilian casualties is negligible. In fact, Ukraine is inflicting higher numbers of civilian casualties in Donbass and in Russia than Russia is in the whole of Ukraine. Okay? I don't make the numbers up. You can go by what's been reported to the United Nations. That's the fact of the matter. Yet we hear all this crazy rhetoric coming from virtue signaling Western politicians and, you know, subtards like Donald Trump who are just like making up the story, just whatever fits my narrative. I'm just going to make up some facts and stick that on my Truth Social account, and I'll push that out. Fox News will buy it. My supporters love me anyway. I could just lie through my teeth. Doesn't matter what I say. They still love me. They're going to vote for me. But I think Trump's hemorrhaging support on a pretty fundamental level because of some of this. So meanwhile, and we'll bring on to the stage, the Magic Man. Who's the Magic Man, you're going to ask? Well, we'll take a look. The Magic Man is here, Steve Witkoff. That's the Magic Man. That's the guy, the special envoy, Witkoff, to visit Moscow on Sunday. I'm sure they're waiting with bated breath in Moscow. Steve Witkoff, the Del Boy of diplomacy. This is what I've dubbed him. The Del Boy of diplomacy. If you ever watched that show, Only Fools and Horses, those of you in Britain know what I'm talking about. And some enterprising Americans who watch PBS might have seen it as well. The same PBS Trump's going to defund. It's the only time you get to see some of that British broadcasting classics on PBS. Witkoff sent to Moscow Sunday. The special envoy. He's got a deal or maybe a deal. He's going to go and meet. And he's going to like chew the fat. He's not going to take any notes. He's going to come back and tell Donald Trump what the Russians said. He's going to give him an ultimatum. Maybe smoke a cigarette with Lavrov. Donald Trump's special envoy. This guy works for Israel. That's who he works for. Ultimately, Steve Witkoff only cares about Israel. And this is what we've come to learn, and I didn't know this before, but I did after a period of time, that this is a side hustle, this whole Russia thing for Witkoff. His main assignment is from Tel Aviv. He works for the Israelis. For all intents and purposes, this guy works for the Israelis. And that's ultimately what he cares about. So he is not going to achieve anything. He's not credible. He's not serious. He has no experience in the field. He is literally winging it, and he's just going through the motions. All he cares about is doing Israel's bidding. In other words, lying to the Palestinians, faking ceasefires, pretending there's going to be a deal or a ceasefire in Gaza, fooling the Iranians, preparing for a sneak attack. He's already done his job. He's earned his crust. He'll probably get a street named after him like Robert Maxwell or James Jesus Angleton somewhere in Tel Aviv. If he's really, really good at this, if he really does right for Israel, he'll get a street named after him in Jerusalem after Israel kicks all the Palestinians out, after they expel all the Arabs from East Jerusalem. Witkoff will get, maybe a memorial, maybe a street, maybe a bus station. Who knows? Maybe the new high-speed rail station, Steve Witkoff Terminal in Haifa or Tel Aviv, connecting with Neom. Who knows? Anything's possible. So the Magic Man said, well, I'm hoping he can have a breakthrough, says Matthew Whitaker, the U.S. ambassador to NATO, another one. But he's hoping that Witkoff's going to get a breakthrough after not getting anything for the last 7 months. Ladies and gentlemen, my best advice here, don't hold your breath. And more importantly, don't believe anything any of these people ever say. They're not credible. They're not serious. And they're not there to solve anything, okay? They're there to pad the nests of the stakeholders that have sent them. This guy is a con artist of the highest level. This is why he is presiding over a string of debacles and failures and nearly helped to start World War III by faking negotiations with the Iranians while Israel is preparing a sneak attack. No credibility at all. The Russians aren't stupid. They know what he is. And he'll be lucky if he gets the time of day. Russia's just going to go through the motions. They're just going to go through the motions. They're like, oh, here he comes. Here comes Del Boy. Get the vodka out. Bring the girls. Bring the caviar. We'll keep him busy for a couple of days. And then he's going to leave, and we're going to get on and do our business. That's where things are at right now with Russia. And Trump, quite frankly, and the interests that are directing Trump, i.e. global capital, Wall Street and the City of London, they're going to get on and do their business. And their business is selling arms and making money on the stock market. And all those firms are just doing incredibly well right now. All these guys are getting rich like you can't believe on defense stocks because of this. Because there is no peace deals, you see. That's good for the defense industry. It's good. It's good for Witkoff. Keep the gravy train going. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a flying frappuccino about Palestinians, that's for sure, and even less about Ukrainians. Okay? This is all cannon fodder for property deals, defense stocks, private equity firms, and hedge funds. That's all. And maybe a meme coin. It's probably, whatever the next Trump rug pull meme coin scam is. Who knows? Maybe Witkoff will get a coin. The Witkoff coin. Steve coin. $. Steve, $. Steve W. How about that? Steve W. coin. You can use that to fund the next round of negotiations. You could just use a mem coin. Get everybody to, buy this new Steve W. coin for peace. Watch it shoot up in value, and then they can pull the rug. Maybe Javier Milei can get some of his Argentinian friends involved. Help to get, pump that coin up. I mean, we're joking about this stuff, folks, but this is kind of like what these people are doing. This is what they've been doing for the last 6 months. Unbelievable. I wish it weren't true. I wish I was joking. I wish this was parody, but it's not. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to go to Overdrive. When we come back, we'll bring some of our teammates on. We'll review some of these stories and much, much more. And more importantly, we'll find out who really knows what's going on, and that is our audience in the comment threads. That's where the real brain power is. We'll be showcasing some of the better comments. All this and more after the break. In the meantime, do enjoy the fantastic music of one of our great friends of the show, Red Rumble, and we'll be back in just a few.
For in the final analysis, we all inhabit this small planet, and we are all mortal.
Lately I've been watching the world gone mad. Brothers and sisters full to take a stand, to hate their fellow man, another man. Divide and conquer is the acronym plan. Distract the people, control the story. Don't believe your lying eyes, you know me. Stay in power no matter what. Playing with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye misery, to keep you on edge, make you believe anything anyone says. Keep it left or right, not top or bottom. Accuse the victim, can't you see? We gotta stay in power, no matter what. Playing with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gamble your trust, pushing us to turn the gun. With captured rights, feudals our child will turn to dust. To dust. Industrialized brutality, commercialized cruelty, people as commodity, cheer on war and atrocity.